Hello, everybody, wherever you may be. My name is Larry. My call sign is Kilo 7 Hotel November. I live in Oregon, and this is Ham Radio Live for Wednesday, September 3rd, 2020. You can see the clock, about 2:30 in the morning. What am I doing up so early or late? However you want to work it. Actually, this is the best time to do DX, to contact other people in other continents. So, good time to work on your radio. I'd like to welcome you to show number 21. This is dedicated to people who want to be in the hobby or people who are brand new but not started yet. That's kind of a narrow group. But the people who maybe want to be in ham radio, this video is for you. It may be the most important video you watch on YouTube if you really are passionate about being in ham radio. Say, for example, you've always wanted to be in ham radio. Your grandfather or your dad was in or is in ham radio and you want to do it too, and it sounds fun. Here's what you do. You start out by going to this web page. Okay. It is ARRL.org. That's Alpha Romeo Romeo Lima.org. And I'll put it in the description as well, so you can just click on the link. The American Radio Relay League is your best source to help you get your license. They have lots of links and people connected with them that they can get you tested very, very quickly for your ham radio license so we can get you on the air. And that's what we all want, to do that. All right. We're going to talk today about the $1,000,000 question, which is what everyone wants to know. How much does it cost to do this today? Well, in 2020, it basically is going to cost you right about $35 to take your test. That's the amount of money that, the FCC, with the mailing and all the license fees and all that stuff, charges. Volunteers essentially give you your test for free, really. I mean, it's amateur radio clubs that have volunteer examiners who have been approved by the FCC VEC, which is the Volunteer Examiner Coordinator, to help give you your tests. It's fantastic. So here's the cool part about the test. If you want to work most of the bands that are available to hams in the United States, study online. Online courses are available. I know with the pandemic now, a lot of people want to stay indoors. It's a great time. Go on your tablet or your laptop, your computer, even your phone, and just download one of the company's pages to take the exam. I mean, I took it from a company called Ham Radio Online. I really was great. So it was Ham Radio Test Online. That was it. I studied very hard and got from zero, meaning no license, to extra in one day by God's grace. And I do mean that part, by God's grace. And I was thrilled. I was so excited. I finally got my dream. I just couldn't get the license for so long because I just could not figure out Morse code. And that was part of the requirement to become a ham back then. So I want you to know it's not hard to get your license. If you're not good at math, don't be concerned. A lot of the test questions have to deal with safety, keeping you safe with your equipment to make sure that you don't get hurt, common sense things to make sure you don't burn your house down. These aren't difficult questions. So please, if you've wanted to become a ham, do it. Take one of the online courses if you're worried about the coronavirus right now, or talk to a local ham radio club. I'm sure that they have some sort of connection to classes that you can attend, or perhaps they will give you classes themselves, because we all want one thing, and that's to get you on the air. Now, how do ham radio operators work in 2020? We all know about Morse code, right? That's what started it. That's what Marconi started with way back in the day. Morse code. That's still alive and well, by the way. A lot of people doing Morse code around the world. Of course, we all know about the microphone. This is single sideband. So you're using this, and don't think of it like CB radio. It's not. CB radio is essentially on 11 meters. Ham radios don't even cover 11 meters because we're talking high frequency that, CBs just don't work on. Okay. These are the real deal. Your radio 100 watts. And you might be thinking, 100 watts, that's not very much. 100 watts has worked me from Oregon all the way to the Canary Islands in the east and to the west, all the way to Indonesia and Australia and New Zealand. So 100 watts with a good antenna, it'll do you well. It really will. So that's that. The $1 million question, though, comes into a lot of people's mind. Okay, I'm interested. I want to get my license. Okay, I can go online and take some courses. It's going to cost $35 for me to get the exam. Here's the deal. If you pass the exam, let's say you go from zero to general, which is the middle license, gives you 97% of all the frequencies available to American hams, $35. Okay. If you go and you get your technician, that test be about 35, and you come back and take your general, another 35. Okay. You get the idea. Every time you take the test, it's going to cost you $35. But if you pass multiple license levels, you don't pay more. It's still 35 bucks. So that's the way you can really make your time valuable. Okay. All right. Now, you've got your license. How much does it all cost? All right. There's a website out there called QRZ. Okay. That's Queen Romeo Zulu.com. Great website. In the United States, we use it as a way to, it's kind of like the yellow pages were. Okay. Or the white pages in this case. You're looking up people who are on the air by their call sign. Okay. Like if I was to look up my father in law's call sign, Kilo November 6 India Ocean Papa, I would type it all in over there in their search bar and I'd find him. All right. Part of QRZ that's really cool is called the swap meet. That's where you buy used gear. And used gear can get you on the air at a fraction of the cost. But please don't misunderstand that. When I say a fraction of the cost, I'm talking about radios that might be 20, 30, 40 years old. Okay. That could be a fraction of the cost. But if you've got like a newer radio that's maybe still in production, but it's maybe a few years old, please don't misinterpret that they're not going to drop 50% in value. Ham radios actually today are holding their value quite well. They really do. Of course, you'll pay less than you pay for new, but you'll still save some money. And that's what a lot of people are about. They like to save a little bit of money. So I'll give you a real world example of how you can get on the air with an antenna that allows you to work multiple bands, all right, and do it for under $800. All right. Here's how you do it. You go onto QRZ, you look at their swap meet, you find yourself a radio. Let's use in this example the Yaesu 450D. And I'm not saying this just because I'm wearing the hat. That's not the reason. I'm saying it because it's a great radio and because I know you can buy it for about $500 used and get a great radio. Okay. So you buy the radio for $500. Now you need to buy an antenna. That's what you should start with. The best antenna you can get. I wanted multiple frequencies and I wanted something that had proven success. Now, for most people, that would be a wire dipole called the G5RV. It's essentially a center fed antenna that ladder line or the old television line, when we had the rabbit ears, right? That brown wire that came out hooked up to the back of the TV. That's ladder line or window line. Basically, it comes down out of the center of that antenna and trails down to what's called a 1-to-1 balun, which essentially connects balanced line, which is the TV, ribbon line, basically the window line that comes off of the back of the antenna, and connects it to coaxial cable, which is unbalanced line. That's why it's called a balun. It connects balanced wire to unbalanced wire. That's it. All right. So you've got your antenna. My recommendation, the G5RV is a great antenna. I have both that and I have the ZS6BKW. Now, I like the ZS6BKW better. It's worked me the Canary Islands all the way to Indonesia and into Australia and Japan many, many times. I just can't recommend it enough. The key is getting it up high enough. Okay. With any wire antenna, you need to get it up high. Now, what if you have a location where there's no trees, right? You don't have much room. How do you get that antenna up high? Well, what I did, I went and I purchased a bracket that would sit at the peak of my roof. Then I went to MFJ, which is the largest antenna and ham radio supplier in the world. They're in the United States out of Starksville, Mississippi. Richard over there. Connect with Richard. He'll take care of you. He's a good guy. He's a really good guy. Anyway, MFJ sells a lot of antenna products as well as amplifiers, and they sell, a lot of ham gear, that'll help you, tuners, things like that. They have an extendable mast series. Now, I went to my city government to find out how high, what's the maximum height I can put my antenna that's legal in my community. That's very important. Make sure you do that. Check with your local government. For my area, it was 50 feet above ground. So I made sure that extendable mast, that MFJ 1904 HD, and I bought the HD because the compression clamps are a little stronger on it. So each section of that antenna, as I raised it up and compression clamped that section down, right, got it to 48 feet. So the little ZS6BKW is up at 48 feet. Now, my roof line is not wide enough, or I should say long enough, to support 93 feet of antenna wire. So what do you do? What I did, kind of a silly answer, but it works, is I basically bought some PVC pipe. I ran the antenna to the edge of the roof there where the PVC pipe was. I tied it with a zip tie because you don't want to tie it with metal. And basically the antenna returns back to the mast. Neither one of the radiating elements, meaning the ends of the antenna, touch. They're both quite a ways away, but it literally kind of looks like a sail. Okay. That's what my neighbors call it, a house with a sail. Anyway, it works. I mean, I've told you this, the countries I've worked all through the South Pacific, all the way into Canary Islands, also Scotland with it. It's a fantastic antenna, $75. That's how much it costs. Now, the difference between the G5RV and the ZS6BKW is the G5RV is long enough to get you 80 meters, okay? The ZS6BKW will get you 40, 20, 17, 15, 12, 10, and 6. Okay. So it's a 7. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. Also 60. It'll get you 60 meters as well. So you basically get 8 bands, and it's really reliable, and you can use all the way up to 1500 watts to make it work. How cool is that? I mean, not many things you need there, right? You get yourself your, full watt antenna right off the start. That's a good antenna, but height is important. With a wire antenna, the higher you get it, the better it's going to be. Optimal height typically depends on what frequency you want to work, but mine's up at 48 and it works like a charm. Okay. Now, the next thing, you got your radio, you got your antenna, few pieces missing. Go to your home improvement store, buy a grounding rod. Now, they're not going to be solid copper. That'd be a fortune. They're basically copper clad steel or iron. You pound that into the ground 2 or 3 feet, and then you take a clamp and you clamp it like the ground is done on your electrical side. Works the same way. You ground a copper wire to it and you run that copper wire right to your shack. You make sure every piece of your equipment is grounded. That is absolutely a must. Your life could be at stake or your house could catch on fire. As a person that's had a house fire and survived it by the grace of God, I'm telling you, don't want to ever go through that. So please make sure, get that ground rod, get that, that the copper pipe up to your shack. That's very important. All right. So now you're down $500 for the rig, 75 for the antenna. So you're 575. You bought your ground rod and you bought the wire. Let's say you're using good old number 10 wire here for your ground rod wire into your shack. Now you're into it. Maybe What is that? You're into it 600 bucks. All right. Now you still need a couple of things. Believe it or not, and I found this to be funny, ham radios don't just plug into the wall. Yep, I know. Weird, right? You'd think they do. For hams, it's perfectly normal. For people coming into the hobby, it's like, huh? Okay. Everything else in my house plugs right in. My TV, my toaster, my stereo, my Alexa, but not your ham radio. You need to have what's called a power supply. All right. And the reason for that is because ham radios can also, they're natively set to work in vehicles. They're natively set to work mobile. So they've always been just built that way that they run on DC about 13.8 volts. Okay. Now, it's good to have service to the shack where you're working, whether it be a bedroom like I work in that's just been converted to a studio and to my shack, or if you've got like an entertainment room or some other room in your house that you can put it in, you don't need much room for it. The point is, make sure that everything is grounded, okay? And hopefully the electrical service will be at least 15 amps. The better, it'd be 20, maybe 30, but you can make it with 15. I know I have with the Yaesu 101 MP. So try and make sure your service, if possible, is at 20 amps. All right. So you now we're going to buy the power supply. Let's buy that new because we don't want to compromise our radio. Make sure it works right. Not going to buy a used one. $125. Okay. Now you're into everything 7.25. All right. You still need to buy one more thing, and that's the feed line that's going to connect your radio to your antenna. That's the last thing. When you buy this item, you want to make sure you buy the best that you can. This is why. You will probably buy a different antenna. You might replace the wire antenna you use now. Maybe you don't like it. Maybe you want to try a vertical down the road. You get rid of that antenna or you keep it up. But the point is, you don't have it anymore. You're using something else, right? Your feed line is that one piece you're going to hold on to. You will. You'll hold on to it when you change radios, when you upgrade antennas, when you change antenna locations. You're always going to get and need that feed line. Get the best. Get the best you can. Now, I'm not saying you have to go out and get, solid wire, solid core wire. I don't mean that. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is go and spend the extra money, buy something equivalent to LMR 400. Okay. If you can't buy LMR 400 itself, it's made by a company called Times Microwave over in the East Coast. I'm going to move that. Sorry. It's proprietary. So you can buy it from other manufacturers who make a similar product to it, meaning it's going to be built the same way, but it's not called LMR 400 because that's copyrighted by Times Microwave. So you may buy it from another company, but buy that good feed line up front because as you grow your station, you're going to use that feed line. You will. The key to it is keeping it dry. Make sure that wherever you connect it, you use good rubber sealing adhesive tape, not electrical tape. Rubber sealing adhesive tape. You can buy it at your ham radio store. It's not that expensive. So you buy your LMR 400. Let's say that run is 50 feet. Let's say it's 50, okay, from where your shack is. Now you're into everything right about $775. You've got your radio, your power supply, your ground rod, your copper wire for your ground rod, your antenna, and your feed line. That's what you need. Okay. Now you're into it 775 bucks. So you're into it under 800. I believe I said 750 at the beginning of the video. It's under $800. And that's buying a used rig. Now, if you decide you want to buy new, there are plenty of great manufacturers who make fantastic radios out there. I just think the 450D on the used market is probably one of the best buys there is. It really is. The other things you can think about as well is what kind of radio you wish to purchase. It might be something that works both HF, VHF, and UHF. There are radios that do that. Okay? We'll get maybe into that in another video. We want you on the air first. So that's how you do it. That's how you have the money to get it under about $800 and do it successfully. But please start with ARRL and get yourself familiar with the webpage QRZ. Thank you for watching. This was show number 21. If you have any questions, you'd like to be a ham operator, and you'd like to ask those questions of me, I'd be more than happy to address them. Please put it in the comments section. Also, please hit subscribe and the bell icon. I appreciate that very much. Until next time, the name 73, that word 73 in ham radio means best regards. So to all of you, 73 from Oregon, my name's Larry, Kilo 7, Hotel November. God bless you. See you next time. Bye, everybody.